Hello and welcome to episode 11 of KMV Travel, the podcast. My name is Kelly, and today I'm all alone, but I'm going to be talking about something that I deal with every day as a travel advisor, and that is budgeting for your Disney vacation. So, we are going to be talking specifically about Walt Disney World, but a lot of these ideas and just ways that we kind of look at how we do budget for a trip is going to be something that you can take across all of your different travels, including to Disneyland, to other theme parks, or to other places that you might be traveling to. When we talk about Disney Cruise Line or other cruise line vacations, it's going to be a little bit different because we kind of have our base price, and that's, they kind of set that for us. But with Disney vacations, we do have a little bit of flexibility in terms of what we do that we can, really work with our families to get the price down or to get to a place where you're getting the amenities that you'd like. But a lot of what I hear from families is how do I go about figuring out how much a Disney vacation is going to cost without, kind of going through and planning the entire thing out. So I wanted to talk through what I basically do with my families where, when somebody fills out an inquiry form, they say, I'm interested in planning a Disney vacation with your complimentary assistance. They'll give me a budget and I'll see the dates that they're looking at going, the number of people that are looking to travel, and the number of park days that they're thinking about. And from that information, I can kind of say, okay, that budget is doable, or all right, we're going to have to talk about this budget because that's just probably not going to fit based on the amount of different items that need to go into your Disney vacation. So let's get into it because I think a lot of people, when we're looking at planning a Disney vacation, the first thing they think about is cost. And that makes complete sense. I'm totally one of those people. But I think two things to think about. So, of course, we want to figure out the cost. But before we even do that, let's think about what are your priorities. So, if your priority is to be hitting every attraction, being there at, rope drop right in the morning, and you're going to stay until fireworks, you want to be able to get into those dining reservations, all of those things, I would highly recommend staying at a Disney resort on property because you're going to get certain benefits when you do that. So those benefits are going to be different depending on what reservation or resort, I should say, you're staying at. But a couple that everyone gets if they stay on Disney property, you're going to get complimentary transportation. So once you get onto Disney property, you do not need to worry about having a car, Ubering, taxiing, whatever you would need to do to get to somewhere. You are going to have either a bus, you'll have possibly a Skyliner, a monorail, boats, some type of transportation that will get you to every park, as well as the two water parks, depending on which one is open, and then Disney Springs. You're also able to get to other resorts with that transportation as well. It might just be more of kind of, you're going to go to a park to then go to a resort. But that transportation is all included. So that is a huge benefit. The other benefit that all Disney Resort guests get is that you're going to be able to make your dining reservations up to 60 days prior to check-in. Where this becomes important is because all the other guests that are, just day guests or annual pass holders, people who are staying off property at another hotel, they're not able to make their reservations until 60 days prior to the reservation date. So for them, they have to go on, if they're going for a 7-day vacation and they want to get 5 days of reservations, they're going to have to go on at 7 a.m. Eastern time for 5 days. So 60 days prior to each of those days. Whereas you staying on property, you're able to make those reservations 60 days prior to your check-in date for your entire length of stay, as long as it's under 14 days. So that's a real benefit. So that's a nice piece to have, especially if getting those dining reservations plus enhancements like the Bippity Boppity Boutique, making a lightsaber, things like that, you'll be able to make all of that 60 days out, and you're going to get a real leg up that way because you are staying on property. Another piece that is becoming more and more important, is the 7-day out availability window for your Lightning Lane bookings. So if you plan to use Disney's paid Fast Pass system, Lightning Lane Multipass or Lightning Lane Single Pass, you are going to be able to make those reservations if you're a Disney Resort guest 7 days prior to your check-in date. Whereas guests that are staying off property or just have a ticket, they are a ticket only guest, they are only going to be able to make their reservations 3 days prior to check-in. So getting that 4-day leg up is going to make a huge difference. If you're trying to go on Tiana's Bayou, Slinky Dog Dash, any of the ones that are really big, very popular right now, you will see that 3 days out, a lot of times there's no availability left to make those lightning lanes. We're going to see this a lot more coming into play when we get into the holidays, when we have higher crowd levels. So having that 7-day out window, if you are prioritizing getting on attractions, is going to be huge to have that. So those are benefits that everyone who is staying at a Disney resort gets. Plus, you also get some magical extras. So just be sure that you check in at your front desk of the hotel to grab this, because you'll get some vouchers to play mini golf that's included. You will also get some discounts. So if you're a big Boathouse fan, which everyone who goes to Boathouse loves it, this is a secret, but I don't like Boathouse, but everyone else does. So it's just me. Don't take my advice for it. But you do get a discount at some of the Disney Springs resort restaurants. So it's something to think about when you are starting to talk about what you want out of your vacation. That's the first thing I would do. Talk about those types of things, and then let's get into what is cost, because now you're able to kind of create what is my must list, and what am I okay with kind of not worrying about. So within that list too, I would think about how do you normally like to travel? So if you are someone who likes to have a cocktail at night, then you probably want to pick a hotel that has a lot more options for bars and lounges and things like that. If you are a family that has, you have 2 children and maybe you like to kind of have separate space, there's options for that. All those different pieces I would start to think about as you begin budgeting for your trip. So let's get into the actual budgeting piece. First things first, we're always going to start with tickets. So I always will recommend that you book a vacation package. It's a Disney vacation package if possible, to stay on property, but Disney does also have some hotels that they partner with that are off property that you can take advantage of this vacation package with. Vacation packages are going to include your room and tickets. And the nice piece of this, or one of the nice pieces, is it's only a $200 deposit at time of booking in order to hold that reservation. And it's non-refundable up to 30 days prior to check-in. So at that 30-day mark, prior to your check-in date, that's when you'll have to make your final payment. And if you decide that, you can't make it, this isn't going to work or whatever, you can always cancel and get that $200 back as long as it's prior to those 30 days. And the other piece that's nice about this is you can kind of set up, okay, every month I'm going to pay off this amount of my trip prior to that 30-day mark. So you can really budget that out there, which is or plan out your budgeting really. The other piece that's really nice about this is your cancellation. It's going to be a very generous cancellation policy. Right now, as I'm recording this, we're literally waiting for Hurricane Milton to come through. And I did have clients that had to have changes made to their reservations, things like that. And Disney worked with them incredibly well in order to make it possible for them to either get here at a different time or to cancel their trip, whatever it may be. And obviously a hurricane policy is a little bit different than their normal cancellation and modification policy, but trust me, I've dealt with many things with families, and Disney has always been amazing because of that cancellation and modification policy. So those are just things to think about with the vacation package. But like I said, we're going to start with tickets. So I would recommend that you price out what the cost of your tickets is going to be, because no matter if you're staying at a deluxe resort at Walt Disney World or you're staying at an Airbnb off property in Kissimmee, Davenport, wherever it may be, you are going to pay the same amount for tickets. There are some sites that will offer discounted tickets. I highly discourage people from going through those sites, not only because I'm a travel advisor, but because if something does happen, like what's just happened with Hurricane Milton, we were able to go and work on the ticket modifications and resort modifications and everything like that through Disney. Now, if you go through a third-party site, if something like this happens, you're under their policies. So you cannot go to Disney and say, well, I can't come, I need to change my 4-day ticket. You are going to have to go through whatever that third-party site is, and you don't know how they're going to, kind of handle those situations. So we know historically Disney is incredible during these situations, so I always recommend that. But when we look at tickets, the reason that I say to start with that is because that's your base price. If you are going to go for 6 days and you want to go to the parks for 4, that your base price is going to be that 4-day ticket. That you cannot move around. You can't make any changes to that in terms of, bringing that cost down other than to take days off or to go at a different time of the year. So that's a good way to kind of figure out what is definitely that's like the hard and fast amount that's going to be in your budget. So once we have that, what I always like to do is kind of say, okay, so a 1-day base ticket for an average for an adult is between 116 and about 202. It can go up and it likely won't go down. But remember, those 1-day base tickets are going to be specific to the park that you're going to. So you might pay a little bit more for Magic Kingdom versus Animal Kingdom, all different pieces like that. But the biggest thing is that you can kind of figure out if it's a 4-day ticket for your family of 4 and it's, going to be $2,500, okay, $2,500 of my budget is already gone based on those tickets. So now what I can do with the rest of my $7,500 budget is use that for my accommodations, my flights, any transportation that I need, all of those kind of pieces. So that's normally how I kind of look at it when I start with that. So then going into accommodations, if we look at what the average cost per the lowest priced resort is at Walt Disney World, that's going to be $220, and that's Disney's All-Star Sports. So $220 per night, which I'm sure some people are listening to this and saying, oh my goodness, that's crazy. But in comparison to what the average is for Greater Orlando area here, the average is $174 per night. So yes, it is definitely more expensive. It's a difference of $46. But when you look at that, I think it puts it into perspective that Orlando is just becoming a more expensive place to visit because of the amount of tourism that is here. So always keep that in mind, that we can only go so low when it comes to pricing for accommodations. So if we look at that and we say, okay, 6 nights, we're going to stay 7 days, that's a savings of staying off property of about $276. So as you are looking at options, both on and off property, I always recommend look at that final number there. What is the difference of that? Because there's going to be additional fees that come into play with a staying off property versus staying on property for a Disney vacation. So like we talked about, there's the transportation that's included with staying on a Disney property. Staying off property, we're going to have to work that those pieces into the vacation. So the other piece to think about when you're planning and budgeting for your trip is transportation. So with Disney, they no longer offer the complimentary service that they used to through Magical Express, where it was a shuttle service from Orlando International Airport to your Disney resort. However, there is an alternative, which is Mears Connect. It's the same company. It's literally the same service. It's just a paid option now. So this is going to be $33.60 per adult and $27.30 per child 3 to 9 round trip to take this service. And the nice piece of this is if you do have little ones, you do not need to worry about them having a car seat because this is going to be a shuttle bus. So you don't have to worry about all of those pieces that come into play when you're starting to think about transportation from the airport to your Disney resort. So you have a family of 4, you can kind of figure it out. 33 times 2 and 27 times 2. That's going to be your total for transportation to and or from and to Orlando International Airport. So that's really the other piece that you have with Disney, right? Oh, the Disney trip is that transportation and then dining. So the nice piece of booking a Disney World vacation package is you can budget for all of this right through Disney. So that means we can get our accommodations, our tickets, our dining. We can add travel protection if we want to, and we can do that all through the vacation package. And that's all of that is going to be that $200 deposit. There's a little bit of a difference. If you get travel protection, you are going to pay for that at time of booking, but you can include that dining package. So the dining plan allows you to basically pay a per day price for dining. There's going to be two different dining plan options. You have your quick service dining plan option, which is going to be one quick service meal, one snack, as well as, or I'm sorry, two quick service meals, one snack, and a refillable mug. And that's going to be per night of your stay. Obviously, the refillable mug will just be for your entire stay. And then you also will have a Disney dining plan, which is going to be your table service options. So you'll get one quick service, one table service, one snack, and then that refillable mug. And that's going to be per night of your stay. So that's something that you can price out when you are getting your vacation package all set up. So you can easily budget for that in advance. And that means budgeting for all of your meals that you're going to have. So it's kind of nice that Disney has created this in a way where you can have that all-inclusive type of feel, where essentially you can start paying off all of this throughout that, whatever amount of time you have until that 30-day mark is that you need to make your final payment. But if we look at off property, it starts to get a little bit more difficult as we start to budget. So things that I would think about if you are looking off property, and that means staying at an off property hotel or staying at an Airbnb. Airbnbs can be a great option for families that are larger, that are looking to bring down the cost of their accommodations by all staying together. But I would recommend just being aware of additional fees that come with both of those options. If you're staying at an off-property hotel, make sure you do check on resort fees that might be part of staying there. Parking fees, if you are going to be staying at a hotel or an Airbnb or rental home, whatever it may be, just check and see if there are any parking fees that you're going to incur if you're renting a car. Other piece is going to be the fees for transportation. So if you are renting a car, it's about $110 per day average in the Orlando area. And then in addition to that, you'll have to pay for parking when you do get to Walt Disney World. And each park is a $36, $36 per day parking fee. So that can add up pretty quickly. Other options that you have is you can use a ride share, which is probably going to be about $15 each way, depending on where your Airbnb or hotel is, or a taxi. A taxi will probably be about $25 per way. Now, with that transportation, that's kind of talking about once we get to our location, but how did we get there? So if we flew in, we now need to get from the airport to our hotel or our Airbnb, whereas Disney guests are able to use that Mears Connect option. If you're staying at most hotels off property or an Airbnb, you don't have that option. So you'd have to use a different service. You can rent a car. You can do an Uber. Uber is probably going to be about $40 each way from Orlando International Airport. And this can really increase. I will say that we live in the greater Orlando area, and we've paid $100 at one point for an Uber home. So it can be expensive. A taxi is probably about $60 each way. And something to think about if you do have children that are in car seats, booster seats, you'll have to make sure that you're able to get an Uber or, ride share that does have that available. So just always think about that availability may not be what you needed at that point. So that's why I always recommend kind of planning in advance of getting to the airport, what transportation you're going to use. If you're two adults, not going to be as big of an issue. The only thing you're going to have to worry about if you do decide to use a ride share or taxi is that the cost can change depending on time of day when you're arriving and availability. So as we go through all that, that's a lot of different costs that are adding up. So those are all things to think about, though. I think one of the biggest things that people forget about is they will look at, they're trying to be as economical as possible with their trip, which I am totally for because I am definitely a person that does that. But they'll kind of look at, okay, so here's the cost of staying at Disney's All-Star, let's even say. And we're going to go for six nights, and we're going to do a 4-day base ticket. And I'm going to compare it to staying at the, I don't know, a hotel in Flamingo Crossing, which is, kind of really right off property at Disney. And so they'll look at it and they'll say, oh, I'm going to save $275. But the problem is that you need to make sure that you've put in those additional costs that you're going to incur. So your transportation, um, if you are staying on Disney property and you get that dining plan, if you have little ones, you do actually save 20% for children. So that's going to be ages 3 to 9 on dining. So on average, you'll save about 20%. If you stay off property, or even if you book a Walt Disney World vacation package through a Good Neighbor hotel, you're not able to add on the dining plan. So those are all things to think about. And that in no way is me saying that the only way to experience Disney is by staying on property. It is the easiest way, the most convenient way to stay, to visit the parks, is to stay on property. But it doesn't mean that it's the best way. And it doesn't mean it's going to be the best way for your family, or the most economical, or, just in reality, what you can do. But going through these different pieces that we talked about is going to make it a lot easier for you to define how much you really are going to be spending, and what different options are out there for you. So what I always encourage everyone to do is to, of course, reach out to a travel advisor who you connect with and you trust. Of course, I'd love for you to reach out to me to let me work with you to plan your vacation, but you really want to make sure that you're working with someone who's knowledgeable, has the understanding of what different options are out there and what's going to work best for you. There are a ton of different options in the Orlando area for accommodations and for dining, things like that. So there's always ways to kind of make sure that you're saving money, but of course, making sure that you're getting the best experience possible. So that is going to be it for today, but I would love to hear what you all think. If you have budgeted for your own Disney vacation, is this kind of the process that you went through? Any questions that you have, please feel free to comment below. And we will be back next time, hopefully for more of these kind of quick tips and ways to plan your vacation. But as always, please reach out if you do have any questions, or if you'd like to set up planning your Disney vacation with my complimentary assistance. You can reach out to us at kmvtravel.com. We're KMV Travel Co. on Instagram. I'm Kelly's Magical Vacations on Instagram, but I would love to connect with you. So thank you all again for watching, and I will see you all again soon.